Thank you. Equal quantities of flour and butter, an amount of water and a pinch of salt. And this is an extravagant amount of butter, all right? So if you feel like you're having a heart attack just watching it, then you can reduce the amount of butter. It's not a problem. But what it does is it makes it really luscious, right? So what, first of all, you want to do is not super cold butter. So you see how this is just crushing up. I'm not going to make a fine crumb. I'm going to make a really messy pastry. But what I'm doing is I'm flattening those cubes of butter. Flatten the cubes, and then you add water. Hopefully I've measured it out properly. And then it's just about bringing it into a messy kind of clump. And I've got a bit of extra flour. And the reason I've got a bit of extra flour is because sometimes, but this messy clump of stuff, you don't want to mix it. I think I've even said it in the recipe. And you just want to bring it together. And don't worry too much, right? See how rough and, you know, we said it's rough, puff. So you can clean your hands off a little bit with a bit of flour. And then just kind of bring it together in a, and I love making cheese straws, for example, from this, or palmiers. Basically, and I'm not too worried, don't worry too much about how rough and ready this is. You just want to, this is the first of the lamination process. And you can mix this, I mean, I'm taking my time, but you can mix this first round, you know, in the morning. And then when you remember, you can just do a rough fold. And like I say, don't worry about all this. A rough fold, like that. Bring it all together, turn it around, and you'll see what happens. It starts coming together. Pick up all the loose stuff. You can press it out. Make sure it's a rectangle. So that's the first of the lamination. It's just called a single fold in pastry terms, right? So a single fold is turning it into thirds. If you want to do a double fold, which is just to create extra layers, which doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be better, instead of folding into thirds, so you've got 3 layers, you then fold it into the middle. And see how it's just starting to come together now? What I tend to do is once I've got it together, I often just put that in the fridge, because what you're doing is you're stretching the gluten, which toughens the pastry. It's quite therapeutic actually, quite enjoying it. A little bit of extra flour just so it doesn't stick. So you see that the butter is breaking the surface. It's no problem, it doesn't matter. Just keep going. And then we'll do one of those folds again. So we'll do a double fold. Make sure we got a rectangle. Sticking a little bit, it's okay. Just move that, right? Now it's really starting to look like pastry. All right? Good. And could you ask Dan for the pastry cutter from the pastry? Let me find something to pop this on. So then all I do is I roll it out. It's not rocket science. I like my big rolling pin. Makes things easy. Try and keep it in shape. Again, it's just practice whether or not you can keep things in shape or not. And depending on how much you love pastry, thick or thin, doesn't matter. So then essentially, just cut some circles. Got a nice big cutter. I won't use these ones because in all honesty, they will shrink because I've rolled it and cut it, as I've explained. And talking about storing and freezing, my recommendation is to roll, cut, wrap, freeze in sheets. All right, because these will freeze in cling film really beautifully, and then you can just take them out, put them on a floured surface. And the reason I say floured surface is sometimes they weep because they lose a bit of water or there's a bit of condensation on it, and allow the flour on the surface that you put them on a tray to just take that moisture away. You can dab it with a paper towel and then you can bake straight away, all right? Okay, so our pastry discs are ready, and then this is our eggless frangipane. And when I do a demo, the reason I kind of pull things together like this is because hopefully it makes it easy and I don't have lots of bowls. But I've got in here almond meal, flour, caster sugar, and apple puree, which is the key because it gives it a beautiful flavour. And I've got milk and vanilla essence. So a little bit of milk. I've got coconut oil. It doesn't have to be coconut oil, you can use anything. As long as, because the coconut oil is obviously there to give it moisture. And there was a little bit, the reason I have this in a separate bowl, that's corn flour. And it's simply mixed together, which is pretty much the same, to be honest, when you make a frangipane with eggs. It's really just mixed dry ingredients into wet ingredients. And obviously egg yolks, for those that are non-veg, add richness to the dish. That's why custards and things like that, they're also obviously a emulsifying agent, a setting agent because of the proteins and the fats. But honestly, I'm starting to embrace the eggless and I'm getting used to it. You'll never change me, but I'm getting used to it. But in this case, what I'll do is I'll use the pan because it's got a heavy base. I just did that. Did you see what I did? Do you care? So basically I'm folding it into triangles. I'm not making a paper airplane, I'm making what they call a cartouche, and it'll just make it round so it fits in there. Still with me? Yep, good. And if you could ask Dan for another piece of, or is the paper there? Maybe somebody put it over there. Is there this paper over there? It's in the pastry section. We've gone down the baking tray path. There are no baking trays. So don't worry, it's all good. So on with the frangipane. And this is great if you want to make like a, put this in a tart with short crust pastry, bake it with some, stone fruits or something like that. Works brilliantly, becomes nice and...
Yeah, one question.
Yeah, go for your life.
Hi, Chef, this is Amantika. You mentioned you put some corn flour in the right?
Yeah, and it wasn't in the recipe? It's not in the recipe? See, that's just me, isn't it? You don't have to put it in. Yeah, you don't have to put it in, it's fine. Apples. Alrighty. Nothing sexy here, but basically oh, I remember what I did. I'm paranoid about wastage, but I remember that what I did was cut the apples slightly differently. And you just slice. And the only reason I'm not using a chopping block is because essentially the whole bench is a brand new chopping block, which I quite like. So slice the apples, not too thinly, like a classic, simply a case of laying the apples in a circle. Here it is. Cover it with icing sugar. Go around the top. So let's pop these in the oven. And if we see any black smoke bellowing from the oven, can you remind me that they're in there? All right. First up, let's cook some mushrooms. If I can get this on. Start. So we're going to make the pasta, but this one's quite soft because it's got the spinach puree in. Yeah, I'll add the mushrooms. Now remember, mushrooms are quite watery, so you want to cook them quickly. This is not a fine semolina. I don't know, Dan, who's my chef, said, I bought semolina. I said, trust me, there's a lot of semolina in India, but he bought it anyway. Harder to roll, all right? Pan's hot, mushrooms in. I'm just going to cook them quickly. Very classic kind of simple, unspicy Italian flavors. A little bit of garlic. I'm just going to put 1 or 2 cloves in. Plenty of olive oil. And you want to cook those mushrooms so they sizzle. Zen-like sizzle. Don't boil them, because what you want is caramelization. Caramelization is the caramelization of the sugars in the vegetables, or in this case, mushrooms, right? And that's where the flavor comes from, right? So see that lovely golden brown? That's what you want. Pasta. So half semolina flour, half flour. I put Tipo 00, which is an Italian flour, and the 00 just denotes the grain, the grind. You get 0, you get 00. 00 just means extra fine, all right? Pinch of salt. And I've measured the amount of spinach puree. It's important. If you don't measure it and guess it, you know, you can, but it just might not work. So it's quite funny. All right, just back to this for a second. We'll mix the pasta in a sec. I've got a little bit of butter for the mushrooms. And I think when I was writing the recipe, I had this idea of chopping some mushrooms, putting it in the filling, and then I decided, no, I just want to put these nice mushrooms on the pasta. I'm really going to leave it up to you, right? So I just want to have those because I'm going to put a little bit in the pasta. So we'll spread them out so they go cold. So we're just going to let our mushrooms chill down a bit, and then we're going to mix this pasta. I would prefer to do this in a machine, you know, like a Thermomix or a little hand blender. I'm just going to give it an initial mix, and then I'll get my hands into it. But it's cleaner for me. I don't like, you know, sometimes I don't like to keep my hands out of it, put it in a little blender, and it's much better. But this works just fine. It's only a small amount of pasta. And it's just a case of bringing that together into a cohesive dough. You can use any puree you want. Beetroot, pumpkin. You could just put a little bit of saffron in the water, for example, and just make it with water. And pasta is, in my house, along with, you know, my fish moile, for example, or my, you know, do I make a chicken with another recipe the chef sent me? A chicken with coriander and ginger and mint, which I love, or my family love. Pasta is a regular feature, and it's also a meal that we make because we don't have much in the fridge. You know, we make gnocchi, we make pasta because, you know, I say to my wife and daughter, I say to the girls, what do you want for dinner? And they just go, pasta, you know, so I just make a quick pasta. That's the nice thing about having a dad that's a chef. Although my wife, like MasterChef, blames me every time she puts weight on. She said, you shouldn't cook that. I said, but you like it. She goes, yeah, but you cook too much. I said, it's a nice problem to have. You know? So just give it a good knead. And again, what's important, see that lovely color? That's insane, isn't it? They're beautiful. And that lovely color just comes from the fact that we blanched the spinach and refreshed it quickly. So you keep that, because once you cook green, once you cook chlorophyll, you'll lose the color. But this needs just a good knead because the semolina is coarse and it needs time, those grains need time to rehydrate, all right? And it looks coarse, but trust me, it's okay. So you can see the grains of semolina. So a bit like, you know, when you make a rava fry, you know, you get that lovely texture in there. But that, if you leave that in the fridge for half an hour, it'll soften up, semolina will soften up, and then it's good to go. All right? And I'm going to put a touch of cream into that mixture. And actually, now I'm looking at it, it's quite a lot of mixture compared to the tiny amount of mushroom I've got. So what I'll do is I'll just use a bit of this because I want a bit more mushroom in my mixture. Mix it first. There's an amount of cream or creme fraiche or mascarpone that you can add to this to make it soft. A little bit of salt. I know I don't have a pepper mill, so pretend I'm just putting in a little bit of pepper, all right? But if you want a slightly softer mixture, you can add just a touch of cream. Don't have to, but you know, it just, again, it's more about richness of the filling than anything else. So mix that together. You can put chopped herbs in here. You could put lots of black pepper, so it's, you know, like if you've heard of cacio e pepe, you know, it's basically just cheese and pepper. So, and they're lovely flavors. They're very nice, simple flavors. We'll take out the thyme from the mushrooms. And we'll chop, let's chop. We'll just make a little bit of mixture. We'll leave a little bit of those just for plate up, so it looks pretty. And we'll chop our mushrooms, and these are exotic mushrooms. You know, they're farmed mushrooms. They're a little expensive. You can do the same thing with button mushrooms, doesn't matter. If you're a forager, I don't know if you, does anybody forage for mushrooms? No? It's a random question, isn't it? I do. All right, so our mixture's made. It's just a little mushroom ricotta filling. If you want, the easiest thing for me, and I think what I've actually written in the recipe, and it's really delicious. All right, flour and semolina, and you can be as messy or not as you want. And then you've got to laminate this. I don't know if you've watched this on MasterChef, but lamination is quite a nice process as long as you've got a machine like this. If you're turning a handle, it's a little bit more labor intensive if you're turning a handle, but the good thing is you can buy a little pasta machine that's quite cheap, and if you don't often make pasta, it's perfect. But when I got my KitchenAid at home, so what you got to do is the idea is to pass, there's numbers on the outside. And you can do this by hand, it'll just take you longer. Put it through, reduce the number twice, let's say. This could be fine, but what you're not doing is you're not stretching the gluten and developing the pasta by laminating it to get what we want in terms of mouthfeel, because you want that al dente. So what I do is then fold it in half, right? And the reason I always have, say, a rolling pin on standby, because if I want to not fold it in half and I want to speed the process up, I can laminate it a few times, you know, like that. So roll it so it's thin enough to easily pass through the widest setting on the machine. And then drop it through again. And then reduce the rollers so it's thinner. Drop it through again. And this is where the lamination begins. And I think that'll be fine. Don't need to do this one for the demo. Bit of flour on the bench, only because I don't want it to stick, but I also don't want too much flour. Water, I want a rapid boil. I've got a little bit of garnish for mushroom, I've got my filling. I don't know what size I want. Let's try a big one first. I'll decide. I'll make decisions on the fly sometimes. You can use a straight cutter, a fluted cutter. You can make agnolotti from this. You can make raviolis from this. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. I'm just showing you one style so that you can go crazy on pasta. And Neha is one of the founders, along with Vaibhav of Conosh, went out for pasta the other night and she said it was terrible. So that puts me under pressure, because then Dan, there's Dan, say hello Dan, we cooked her this pasta and she said it was divine. That's good. It's a good sign, right? It's a good sign. Was she lying? No. All right. So we're just going to make one just to have a look, and then we'll speed it up. So this is a ravioli. This is the way I try and teach people. That's a ravioli, all right? If you put a little bit of, this is just water to stick it together. If you then turn it in on itself, you can create almost being rude, but it's like a little bottom where you can put the knife there. See? It's a cute bottom. So that's a tortellini, and it looks good size. So I'll cut the rest of them out. Different shape. All right? Okay. I'm upset about my tarts now. It's okay, but what we're going to do is we're going to make a little nut brown butter sauce. So a little butter, little thyme and garlic as we did before, just to add a bit of flavour. And we're going to add a pinch of salt, grind of pepper, remember. And what we want is a nutty golden brown. And then we're going to add, not necessary, but we're going to add crushed amaretti biscuits. I can't even remember if I put them in the recipe. I did, good. Thank you, mate. And the reason we're going to add those is because they add a nice sweetness to it. Lovely. And then, but to arrest the cooking, you can add lemon juice or another flavour. So this is sherry vinegar, and then in go the crushed amaretti. So let's actually crush them a bit more. And like I say, this is just for flavour sweetness. And we'll add those mushrooms back into the pan. So now we've got a little mushroom amaretti butter with cherry vinegar. Yummy, yummy, smells good. And then we'll take our little tortellinis. They look nice, don't they? That'll be for me. It's the anti-burn your tarts police. All right, there you go, beautiful. Do you like the look of those? One person liked the look of them, that's good. All right, so plate up time. Tortellini in. So these are nice little soft tortellini, beautifully tender. Let's put 4, because then I can eat one. Doesn't have to be 4, it can be 3. Bit of the amaretti and the mushroom. A little bit of the sauce. All right. And then this is the recipe that you've got, right? Which is the espivant. So, lovely. And then I'm just gonna put a tiny drizzle more of the juice on the top. And you can put pretty things on, flour. You could actually even grate a little bit of Parmesan over the top.